Hi guys, welcome to the workshop. In today's video I've got a little woodworking project that I want to do, but before we get into that I just want to give you an update on what's happening with the van. We're still waiting for the DVLA to send us back the V5 registration form. I've got the camper van insurance secured now, so that's all in place, and as soon as we get that V5 registration document back I can get the van MOT'd and get it back on the road. I know that everybody's eagerly awaiting the final van tour, but I want to get the van back on the road and I want to shoot it in a nicer location than here in the garden. So I hope you can just bear with me just for another couple of weeks for that van tour video to come out. I've still got some footage that I've taken that needs to be edited and released as build videos. So before the van tour comes out there will be another couple of build videos still to go. I've got all of the solar panel installation on the roof. I've got all of the controls and the leisure batteries and the charging facility that we put in the garage at the back. So I've got some detailed videos on the installation of that and how that whole system works. If there's an aspect of the build that you're interested in that maybe I haven't covered fully and that you might want to see in a little bit more detail, perhaps you could just leave me a comment below and just let me know what you'd like to see, and then maybe I can incorporate that in a future video. Okay, so on to today's project. It is van related, but it is a woodworking project, so it encompasses both. So I think you'll find this one interesting. So let's get in the van and I'll show you what we're going to make. Remember we cut a piece of wood out of this bamboo worktop to inset the sink? Well, I kept it because what I wanted to do underneath this draining board here is a chopping board. And I've made this out of the piece that we cut out for the washing bowl. It's got a rebate on the back, exactly the same shape as the bowl. So what you can do is just put it into the bowl and it sits quite securely on the washing bowl. And then what you can do is you can chop vegetables or tomatoes or anything on here. If you've got anything that's got a lot of juice in it, you can just scrape that either into the bowl or into the sink. And then of course the whole thing just stows away, draining board goes on top, and then you can close the lid. So let's jump into the workshop and I'll show you how I made it. We've got a bit of time in the workshop today, so what I thought I'd do is just a nice little simple easy project with this leftover bit of bamboo that we cut out of the kitchen sink. So what I've done is I've just taken the bowl out of the sink because I know that fits in there rather nicely. I've turned it over, placed it on top of this blank, and then what I've done with a pencil I've just drawn round it, and I want to replicate that shape, and then hopefully with a nice little sort of round over bit in my router I can router a shape on the underside so that the chopping board will drop into the bowl. So hopefully when we're finished we can store this chopping board actually in the sink. So there you can see I've got that pencil line traced around the bowl onto this blank. And I'm just going to cut that out with a combination of the table saw and the jigsaw, and then maybe finally just finish off the edge on my belt sander. These two end cuts are fairly straight, so I'm going to do it on the table saw with my panel cutting jig, and then I'll just go a little bit shy of the line and we can sand it back. You can see here on the corners I cut a little bit shy of the line, And then what we'll do is, using the belt sander, we'll just bring that in right to that edge. There, you can see that's brought that nice and close into that line now. I'll go around the rest of the board, just tidy it up, and then we'll get the little trim router out and do some details. So there we go, that's brought all those edges nice and close into those pencil lines. And we can really see how that edge grain has come up now, with those different sections of bamboo that have been laminated together to make this board. Obviously once that's oiled, that'll come up really nice, and then as you get round the corner you can see the blocks on the edge grain. It's going to make quite a nice little feature, that, once it's all oiled up and finished. And now it's the same shape as the bowl, it'll fit inside the kitchen sink. And what I've got set up in the router now is an OG bit riding on a little ball bearing here, and I'm hoping that this profile here is going to be enough to give us a rebate on the edge of the cutting board so that it will drop into the washing up bowl. So I always run a little test piece first just to check that it's giving me the right profile before I actually cut my workpiece. We're going to have to make sure that we take it fairly promptly. You don't want to stay in one spot too long, otherwise we're going to get these burn marks, and that's going to take a hell of a lot of sanding to get those marks out. But that's left us that nice little recess, and I'm hoping that's going to be enough that this will then drop inside the washing up bowl. So here's the washing up bowl, here's our little profile. So obviously when that's flipped over, you'll see that'll drop down onto that edge. Now that profile's only given us half of the depth of the rim as a recess, so that's not deep enough. So I'm probably going to have to use maybe a round over bit and then put the fence on the little trim router to get that recess deeper in. I want this face to be level with the outside of the bowl because that's what we traced round. And then once I've got it deep enough, the whole thing will just drop into the bowl. That OG bit didn't cut enough of a recess for it to fit into the sink. So we're going to have to make a couple of passes with a small ball nose piece. This isn't riding on a ball bearing, so I've just had to fix my auxiliary fence. And then it will ride on this fence around the edge of the board. And then what we'll have to do is we'll have to adjust the fence and make 2 or 3 passes. We'll go around the whole board 2 or 3 times like that and just gradually get a little bit deeper each time until it fits nicely within the bowl. There we go, so that's the first pass. That won't get us enough off to fit inside the bowl. So we'll adjust the fence and then we'll make a second pass. Just make that rebate a little bit deeper. That's the second pass with the router done. We've just taken the fence a little bit further out, which has given us a bit of a deeper rebate. Just gone round all four sides. So let's just try it with the bowl. Bring the bowl back in. So now it should be a fairly snug fit. Oh yeah, lovely. Yeah, that actually fits beautiful. Just a little bit of light sandpaper on that now. Maybe just round over this top edge with a round over bit. Bit of sanding, that'll be beautiful. This bowl and sink comes with this draining board. Now, this draining board is moulded to fit around the wash basin, like so. But obviously at the moment, now we put the chopping board in there, it doesn't really fit on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a scallop, little cutout, in this side of the draining board. We've marked out this little scallop where the draining board sits over. Just going to cut that with the jigsaw. Oh, that's nice, lovely, really nice neat cut. Bit of sandpaper on that now. There we go, so we've got that nice little scallop cut in the edge of the board there. I've just given the bottom a very light sanding, rounded off all these corners so it's a lot more softer to the touch. There's no sharp edges there. And now the final stage is just to round over this top edge here. What I've got in the little trim router again, I've got a 1/4 inch radius round over bit riding on a little ball bearing, and I've just got a little bit of it showing, enough just to give this a nice round corner. There we go, that's just eased that corner. We'll just give that a light going over with the sandpaper, and then the board's ready for oil. It's always best to sand in the direction of the grain, and then if you do have any little scratches or whatever, they're not going to be seen. This is a bit of any project that I really look forward to. The nice part of doing woodwork is seeing the final product come to life with a nice coat of oil. It's really nice just seeing that grain pop in front of your eyes. Put a fairly generous coat on this first one because the natural wood will just soak up this oil like a sponge. We'll let this dry for 24 hours and then we'll come back and do a second coat with a cloth. This chopping board oil is made with natural plant oils, so it's totally food safe. So there we go guys, that's the finished chopping board. Really pleased how that's come out with just that tiny bit of scrap bamboo. I love the way these different grains work together. And obviously now that fits nicely in that washing bowl and the draining board clips over the top of it. So there's the bowl. Chopping board now sits in there quite nicely, and then the draining board over the top. and the whole thing will sit inside our sink. To mark the location of these lift up brackets, I've just put some tape on the end of this unit, and then I'm just going to rule a centre line to start with. I'm going to come in exactly 100mm from the end of the board on both sides, and then we'll just put a pencil line down there just to give me a vertical line, and then I'll use that mark to lay out for screws. Then I can offer the bracket up, making sure that it's centered on that mark. I just want to make sure that the top of this bracket is exactly on the underside of this countertop, and then the new countertop is going to end up in the same place. So I can sight down the top of there, and what I need to see is exactly the bottom of this countertop. Looking down here, when it's nice and flat, I want it to line up exactly with this edge. Once we're happy that it's in the right position, we can just mark the screw locations. What I'll also do is I've just put an L on the bracket, just so I know this is the left bracket, because the screw locations may be slightly different. We'll put an R on this one as well. There we go, I've put an R on there already, just so that I know that this is the right hand bracket, because there could be some variation in these drill locations. Same again, centre the bracket on our line. Sight down the top of the bracket so it's level with the underside of the work surface. Once we're happy with that location, then mark the screws. Now I've got 15mm of furniture board and I've got 12mm of plywood carcass, so I've got 27mm of wood to screw into here, which is really good. You know, that's going to give us a nice strong fixing. Each one of these brackets has got 6 screws in each bracket, so that's 12 screws altogether into a 1-inch thick piece of plywood. So I'm quite happy that's going to be more than secure. So let's go and sort out some screws and a pilot drill to suit. So what I've managed to find in my supplies is a M4 by 28mm screw. So it's just about perfect. We've got a little bit of thickness of the metal bracket. There's a countersunk head which is not going to pull into the bracket, and then this should go pretty much all the way through without protruding into the cupboard. So this is the best size. This is a 4mm screw. So what I've picked as a pilot hole, I've got here in my drill, I've got a 2.5mm drill bit as a pilot. So there's still going to be plenty of meat there for the threads to get a grip of. First thing that we're going to do, like we always do, is do a centre hole with a bradawl in each of these locations. I'll just punch a little divot hole, and then that'll help me to just get the drill started. And then we'll drill those pilot holes. Remove our masking tape. And then we can secure the bracket. We can now pencil these holes. And then we can pre-drill these the same as we did the others for some screws. And this top is 28mm thick, so I will probably use a 1-inch screw or 25mm screw, and then I've got no worries about it coming through the top surface. I've got these 1-inch screws, they're not going to go right the way through, so they're fine. And then what we'll do, just to make sure that we don't drill through the worktop, we'll put a little marker on the drill bit. I know you've seen me put a little flag on there before, just to make sure that we only drill so far with the pilot bit. We don't want to be going any further than that. Get our bradawl, centre punch these holes. That's it. What a beauty. So there we go. We haven't thrown away those odd scraps of wood. We've put them to good use. And I'm really pleased how they've turned out. That's going to be invaluable, that little extension to the kitchen. That's just going to give us that extra work surface when we're cooking in there. And I'm really pleased how that chopping board came out and the way it nests inside that kitchen bowl, and then when you put the lid down it's all tucked away nice and safely. If there's a part of my build that you'd like some more information on, or maybe you're struggling with a part of your own build, then you can always leave me a comment below and I'll try and come back to you as soon as I can. What I may do as well, if there's a number of different comments, I may do another Q&A video, and then that way I can answer all your questions in one go. And obviously I can video some of the bits in the van and show you in more detail. Hope you've enjoyed this little video, guys. Please do give it a thumbs up and share the videos on social media. It really does help to support my channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers!